Are you ready to revolutionize your relationship with money? Welcome to the Finding Financial Freedom podcast with the Frugal Physician, where Dr. Disha Spath will be your companion on this exciting financial adventure. Get ready to conquer debt, build wealth, and embrace a mindful spending lifestyle that will empower you to live life on your own terms.
PearsonRavitz's story begins with Dr. Stephanie Pearson, a passionate OB-GYN at the height of her career. But then, a shoulder injury struck during a precipitous delivery. Her dreams were shattered, leaving her unable to practice medicine. Determined to make a difference, Stephanie became an advocate for her peers, guiding them through the complex disability process. Alongside insurance expert Scott Ravitz, Stephanie founded PearsonRavitz, a company determined to approach insurance differently. Together, they set their mission to educate and empower physicians to protect their most valuable asset, their income, and the most important people in their life, their family. Today, PearsonRavitz serves the medical community in all 50 states. At PearsonRavitz, they understand the unique concerns of physicians. Physician-founded and physician-focused, PearsonRavitz builds human connections before they create quotes. Life can change in an instant. It's hard to imagine that a sudden illness or injury could leave you and your family in a devastating financial situation. But with a little planning and guidance, you can prepare for every possibility. Visit PearsonRavitz.com to schedule your consultation with a PearsonRavitz advisor. Hey guys, welcome! As you know, I am the founder and CEO of The Frugal Physician, but I'm also a full-time practicing internal medicine physician. And Dr. Stephanie Pearson is here. Hey Steph, how you doing?
Hi, Disha. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. Dr. Stephanie Pearson, if you don't know her, is the founder of PearsonRavitz, an insurance company. But before that, she was an OB-GYN physician who was practicing full-time and was unfortunately disabled on the job and has medically retired. So Steph, we're here today to talk about Match Day because this is an ever important week for medical students. They're finding out if they have matched or not. And by the end of this week, they'll find out where and if they match. You and I can both relate to the stress that everyone is probably feeling right now. So tell me a little bit about your Match Day experience. How was it?
So we're going way back. I matched in 2001, and it was an interesting day. I had my rank like everybody else does, and it was back when we had to open up envelopes. And so the countdown came and everyone was there, and I undo my envelope and I start to cry. Not because I didn't match, but because I got my second place. And it was a big deal. I had put my first place in Manhattan. I'd been dating somebody for 5 years. Again, right, what we do for our partners. And I matched in Philadelphia, which is where I went to school, which is where my whole family is. Yeah. So here I am crying, calling my brothers, and they couldn't be happier. They wanted me to match in Philly and stay home. It was an interesting day. One of my best friends did not match, and he had been trying to get into orthopedics. And so I very quickly went from not wallowing in my own self-pity, trying to help him manage the scramble or soap process, which I'm happy to report he did match and had a great experience where he ended up training. But I had the entire flood of emotions within like 15 or 20 minutes. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a incredibly stressful experience because we don't have any control over the process, really. I mean, we have some, but for me, it was back in 2012. I was part of the match, and then my husband was active duty military, so he had his out of control portion himself where he was stationed, wherever he was stationed, and we were trying to make things align. That actually during the match ranking process, we were just dating and I went out to Hawaii to interview and I fell in love with the program. I mean, they were just so lovely. The medicine was so interesting because you saw all kinds of infectious disease coming through from the East and the West. And it was just a very interesting program. And I really liked the people and I was really going to rank them number one. But my husband followed me out to Hawaii and surprised me me by showing up on the last day that I was there. And then we hiked a Cocoa Crater, which is a volcano. And at the top of the volcano, he proposed. And so that changed my rank order list a little bit and changed my plans up. And, I definitely wanted to make sure that we were together, and the logistics of him transferring from Tennessee, Nashville, where he was, Clarksville, technically, to Hawaii would have been kind of daunting as he was active duty. So we decided to rank Nashville, the UT program there, the highest so that we could be together. And when match day came around, I was so nervous because, it really determined whether we were going to get to be together or whether we'd have to go through this huge process with the military to try to get him transferred. So we had actually a really fun celebration where we all got to dress up as a character, and we were all in a big auditorium. I believe we got the match in an envelope in the auditorium, and then we got to walk up to the stage with a theme song that we had chosen for ourselves and have it
Major
announced.
League Baseball.
Yeah. Yeah. I chose the Short Skirt Long Jacket song, Cake. Very much felt like I was like Carmen Sandiego, where in America would I end up? I had no idea. And thankfully, it did turn out to be the UT Nashville program that I was hoping for. And we were all very happy. But I do remember a lot of people weren't as happy with what they found. And it's a harrowing emotional experience. And it means so much to so many people, right?
Right. And it's the highest of highs, the lowest of lows. And
right.
The SOAP process is not easy.
Right. It's totally an emotional roller coaster. And the SOAP process, let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, so if you find out you didn't match today, now there's a whole process this next week that's coming up where you can apply to 45 other programs and see who has availability. And then you have interviews and then another basically match process. And then everyone gets their final assignment on Friday. What was your process with your friend that went through SOAP, Stephanie?
I remember first just getting over the hump of not matching, right?
Right.
And great student, great guy, right? It goes back to, I'm dealing with college admissions right now with my eldest. And it's that same idea of you're going to get in places that you maybe shouldn't. You're not going to get into places you should. And as everybody knows or will now, that the match is set up to try to get the most people matched. We had this whole long talk of, was it the way that he ranked programs? Did he not rank enough programs? And then once we got kind of past that, because it was done, right? There was no control at that point.
Right.
It was truly, how could I help him deal with the upcoming process? As far as, I remember we play interviewed and I was like, okay, what did you say? And maybe you should say this. And we had a great internal system. So I went to what's now Drexel. It was MCP Hahnemann when I went. The staff and the school doubles down to help the kids that didn't match. And so it was more trying to remind him how good of a student he was and how good of an orthopedist I thought he was going to be, and really trying to help shore him up, because it's a mental blow. And, thankfully, honestly, we didn't have social media back then. Most of us by graduation had laptops, but it wasn't the same bombardment that I would anticipate that there is today. I felt like my role was more as his best friend and trying to keep him focused on what he could control.
Yeah. And he was so lucky to have had you, because I know people did scramble in my residency, but a lot of it was kind of hush hush and behind the scenes. And yeah, and it sucks because now we do have such bombardment on social media. What big sister advice would you give the current applicants that didn't match yet?
I think staying off social media, which I realize we're on social media.
Right.
But if you haven't matched and you're going through the SOAP process, I think you really need to double down on your mental health and well-being, and seeing, hundreds, if not thousands of people celebrating is not helpful. I'm sure that there are some groups for the non-matched, and we're talking about thousands. I actually went back and looked up some data, and between 2004 and now, there were anywhere from 4,900 to 8,500 people that didn't match in a given year. And
Wow.
I think that to be able to kind of put in perspective that the number is really high, and it's not a direct reflection on who you are or how good of a doctor you're going to be. Like I mentioned with my friend, it could have been how many places you ranked, where you ranked them. And so I think, number one, stay off social media unless there are specific groups for the non-matched. I think focusing on what you can control. So what programs didn't match? Where would you be happy? Where would you be okay? Right? Because you can go somewhere and switch out. I don't want people to walk in being like, oh my God, this is the end. Because for a lot of people, it's not where you were supposed to be. Throughout my career and my journey, I've had to give it over to the universe and believe that things happen for a reason. Like I mentioned, I got my second place. Well, guess what? I ended up meeting my husband there. I had an amazing education and experience. And I think I turned out to be the doctor that I was based on where I trained. And my friend had an amazing residency and experience and ended up in an amazing fellowship and is a very successful orthopedist right now, right? So I think that may be a little woo-woo for some people, but I truly believe that when one door closes, another one opens. On the flip side, there are people at the end of SOAP that still don't match. And I think at that point, it's really talking to your professors, it's talking to your mentors, figuring out, does somebody have a lab that you can work in? Is there something, can you be a scribe, right? Like really open up your opportunities to what you can do for a year to make your application seem better, to stay within the medical system, and really focus again on what is it that you can control. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the big picture of things, a year is not that long. And even so, if you go through the SOAP process and, you have to maybe scramble into a program, nobody knows that, when you start your career and you're practicing, nobody cares. Really, like you're going to be fine, even if you have to go through this process in the next week where you find another program that might, accept you. And even if you don't match at the end of it all, you could do a year of, internship or research, scribing, whatever it is. In the big picture, 1 year doesn't throw you off all that much. Maybe you might want to take the USMLE step 3 and try to get that passed to make yourself a stronger candidate, get some research under your belt. Whatever it is, don't give up. Doctors aren't judged by if they got, their first choice in the match. Nobody knows until we get in a forum like this and start talking about it. Really, nobody knows. Your patients don't care. Your patients only care about how good of a doctor you are. Yeah, exactly. They have no idea. And when you get to practicing and becoming the doctor that you're going to be, all of this will be in the rearview mirror, and it'll be a very small blip of emotion in a very long and healthy career.
Agreed.
Yeah. So I think just staying grounded and also realizing the fact that while we are pretty type A medical people, right? And when we go to med school, we're generally pretty type A and we like to control things. This is a process you really can't control all that much. And realizing that we don't have control here, and to just go with the flow and ride the wave and see where you end up. as difficult as that is for type A people. So what are some ways to prepare for match day?
Oh, wow. I think getting a good night's sleep the night before, if possible. I might have stayed up all night. I'm not really sure why I'm saying that. Kind of do what I say, not what I do. I think making sure, honestly, that you have a friend who's not medical that you can call either way, right? Everybody has that person, I hope, that they celebrate with and commiserate with. I really do think that sometimes having somebody outside of medicine just to vent, right? Or to celebrate with, right? Who's really going to be there for you in the way that you want somebody there for you, I think is really important, and kind of setting the stage of, okay, match is at noon Eastern Standard Time on Friday. Keep your phone on you. I'm going to call you at 12:15 either way. I think that if you are already in therapy, better living at, life through therapy and pharmacology, may not be a bad idea to have an appointment the week leading up to Friday, right? Like if you don't have an appointment this week, maybe it's not a bad idea to call and make sure that you're doing what you can to shore yourself up, and so that you're in a good mental place should it work out either way. I think that remembering, if you're celebrating, that there are people that aren't celebrating, and to make yourself accessible, right? You're in a room with people, you can read by their faces whether they're happy, sad, and remember that if you got what you wanted, that maybe not everybody else did. And so maybe, open yourself up to being that helper during SOAP.
I love that. Yeah, it's important to remember that, we're not islands. And even if we get what we want, which is great, and you definitely deserve to celebrate, to open yourself up to others and be there for your friends. Make sure you're there for your support group as well. And make sure that, you're there for them if they didn't get what they want.
And it may not be a bad idea to put something on the calendar for the weekend. A massage, it's going to help whether you matched where you wanted to or not, right? Have a plan with your friends to go out for ice cream, or just making sure that you're surrounding yourself with the people that light you up and bring you joy. And I think that works regardless of what happens on Friday.
Yeah. I think another important part of self-care is this is a very emotionally harrowing week for a lot of people. And it's important to identify the people that lift you up and are good for you, and the people that are toxic, and try to keep the toxic people out of your life. I mean, we all have some people like that in our lives, and it's important to shore up your self-care routine by also taking care of yourself and knowing that your feelings may be a little stretched thin, your patience might be stretched thin this week. So make some room for yourself and keep the toxic people out.
You should probably be doing that all the time.
Yeah.
But some of us are better than others.
Yeah. Some of them are easier to block out than others too,
And we digress.
Well, yes, exactly. What about people that are going through SOAP right now? Where a lot of medical students are on rotations this month and they're working. What should they be doing if they're going through SOAP?
Ask for grace.
Yeah.
I think if you're in the middle of a rotation, you do have to be honest with the docs who you're rotating with. I've been out a long time, but I would like to believe that your attendings would be okay. At least back when I was in school, those kids, and I'm sorry, you're all adults, but I'm old. The students that didn't match got off of their rotations that week so that they could double down and really work through the process. And for those of you, again, that matched where you wanted or matched at all, right? Give those students some grace, right? And if you have to pick up an extra shift or you have to work a little bit longer, I would hope that if the roles were reversed, that you would get that grace.
I think most attendings are pretty understanding of the process and realize that, the SOAP process will take you a long time. You're going to have to fill out a ton of applications. You're going to have to do interviews. And, this is an important part of finishing your training. And now, a word from our sponsor. In a world where the right connection can mean the difference between a community thriving or just surviving, Practice Link stands as the beacon of hope, Since 1994, they've been the bridge between job-seeking physicians and the communities that need them the most. With over 5,000 health systems, hospitals, and private practices connected to thousands of opportunities, they are more than just a job board. They are a lifeline. Practice Link, because where you practice matters, not just to you, but to everyone you touch. Your next chapter starts here. Visit practicelink.com/thefrugalphysician. So we have a few questions coming in here. Please feel free to drop your questions into the chat wherever you're watching this live stream. If you have any questions about what happens during match, how do I'm a financial person. I wouldn't call myself an expert. I'm a person who likes to talk about finances. I'm a physician who teaches about personal finance, and Dr. Stephanie Pearson is an expert in insurance. So if you have any questions regarding that or just regarding residency life in general, we've both been through it. We can give you our advice. So here's one question that came through. What are the expectations for on-call hours and work-life balance in the program?
If we're talking about residency programs, all of that is dictated by the ACGME. And
Right.
honestly, I've been out of clinical medicine for 10 years.
Yeah, I think it totally depends on what program you're in and what rotation you're on. So some rotations are going to be tougher than others.
Yeah.
Some are going to require more on-call hours, and you're going to have a better work-life balance on certain months and much worse on other months. And it's all going to depend on what you're doing, where you are, and what month. And again, this is an exercise in sort of letting go of control and also really just tuning into yourself. On the tough months, you really have to tune in a little bit more and focus a little bit more on self-care when you're on your off days.
I think that also one of the really important things when you start intern year is to ask the residents above you. They're going to know what the hard rotations are. They're going to already have been through it and really look to them as guides. They're not only there to help teach you and educate you on the field of medicine that you've chosen, but they should be helping you in the work-life balance realm so that you can plan ahead. And I think that prepping yourself for what's to come instead of just walking in blind is incredibly helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah, those mentors. I mean, it's incredibly important in medicine to seek out mentors, no matter what stage you're in. And a lot of people are totally willing to help people behind them too. And that's the culture of medicine. And that's really lovely to seek it. When you find someone who's willing to give you advice and tell it to you unfiltered, that's the kind of person you really want to keep in your life and nurture that relationship. You give some, they give some, but keep them in your life, ask them the questions that you need answers to. And then, a lot of times we're not the only ones in our lives. Our boyfriends, our significant others are also going through this with us. And if we know that a hard month is coming up, we can prepare them as well to be like, okay, well, this month I may not be as emotionally available. This month I might get behind on laundry. So give me some grace or give me some time to catch up.
Set up as much of your bills on auto pay.
Yes.
So that you don't forget.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's a big one.
Right.
You don't want to have to be thinking about the things that you don't need to be thinking about. And some of that just came to my mind because it was one of the things that really made a difference for me. I'm guessing that that's still the case.
Yeah, while you're going to be getting a salary, you're going to be making money. It's not a whole lot, but it's going to be the first time a lot of us make money, right? Some real money. And so it's important to get our financial lives set up correctly. Make sure you are realistically planning a budget. And you can do that now rather than when you start the residency, because most likely you're going to have some downtime between now and the start of residency. Think about, how much money is going to be coming in. What are your living expenses going to be like? And think about whether you should be buying a place or renting a place. As you find out where you're going, start looking at living situation. Most of the time, it's advisable for residents to rent because you don't have the headaches of home maintenance, buying a house, going under contract, especially under the current interest rates. It's all pretty difficult and may not be financially viable for you, because a lot of times, we finish our residency and then we move on. And for our
Right.
first job, we're in a different town. So owning a house for 3 years or 7, right? Whichever, however long you're. So if your residency is 3 years, then, it may not make as much sense if you're planning on moving on after the residency. And a lot of times we don't know this in advance, right? Renting until we figure out our situation, it can be advisable. And there are a lot of rent versus buy calculators out there. If you just Google rent versus buy and put in your expected time frame that you're going to be in that area, and you can also put in details like what city it's in, what are the taxes like, and really calculate out if you're going to be financially better off renting or buying.
And thinking about whether you're somebody that should be living alone or if you're somebody that needs roommates. A lot of the hospital, like residency institutions, will have find me type of programs, right? You get the list of who you're matched with. And then there are so many things nowadays. If you go to Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, what have you, right? Where if you're the type of person that knows that you should be living with other people, these are all the things that you need to think about. I knew I needed to be by myself because it was something I could control and I didn't want to have to worry. I had friends who were like, oh my God, if I lived by myself, I would never come out of my bedroom. And so I think also thinking about what you need in your living arrangement, now's the time to start thinking about that, because things rent out fast, right? There are so many other people who are starting training in the same city you are.
Right. Yeah, not to stress you out, but that's one thing that you probably should get on as soon as you find out where you're going. Another thing that comes up is, student loans at this point of medical school. We're ending and we're looking towards our student loan debt and getting a little scared. A lot of people start asking, should I start making payments on my student loans in residency or should I defer? So Stephanie, what do you think about that?
I hate answering questions with it depends, but I think it depends. It depends on, are you going to be in a low cost of living area or a high cost of living area? And what does deferring it mean to your load, right? If you're somebody that has hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, I don't know, it may make sense. I'm of the ilk of start chipping away at stuff. I wish, on a separate note, that somebody taught me about Roths when I started practicing. I didn't start putting money away for retirement until I became an attending. You have to kind of do the math, right? Where does it make more sense for you to be putting your money?
I mean, right now, with the SAVE IDR plan that we have available for residents, it makes a lot of sense for just go ahead and start making payments, because a lot of the times the residency salaries will give you a very favorable payment, and you can start logging in the payment months that would qualify you for forgiveness earlier. Right. So especially if you're looking at PSLF, residency is a great time to get 4 years, 3 years, however long it is, of payments logged in for working for a non-for-profit, because most of these training programs are non-for-profit hospitals. And then you can get a head start on that forgiveness. Right. Now with SAVE, whatever extra interest there might be at the end of the month gets forgiven. Whereas I think in deferment, it's still adds up. So you're still accrue interest in deferment, but you don't have any accrued interest at the end of the month in SAVE. So that's a huge advantage. So you should really think about that. And like Stephanie said, you're also eligible to contribute to a Roth IRA. Some programs offer residency 401ks, but not all do. But no matter who you are, where you are, if you have earned income, you can contribute to a Roth IRA. And as a resident, most residents, depending on your marriage situation, of course, but on just a residency salary, you would be able to contribute to a Roth IRA directly. You can put away $6,000 a year for retirement. That may sound like a kind of meager amount when it comes to, the millions that you're going to need for retirement. But the thing is, the earlier you start, the better off you are. I mean, the time factor in retirement investing is huge. And if you can get 4, 3, 4, 7 extra years of retirement contributions, it makes a huge difference, like hundreds of thousands at the end of your working life. Huge thing that you can be contributing to a Roth IRA.
And even if you can't contribute the $6,000, I mean, there was no way I could have contributed $500 a month, $100, anything, right? Compounding interest, that $100 that you put away will make you thousands and thousands and thousands later.
Right.
And I think most of us can figure out how to eke out some extra money.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was in residency, I totally didn't know about the Roth IRA option either. And, we had a good bit of money that we spent, during that time on vacations and such. And we certainly could have cut back a little bit on that, on the frivolous spending in order to make the retirement contributions. I know you're just getting started in your career and retirement is probably far from your mind, but believe me, we're already behind when we come out as medical students, as new residents, because our college friends have been making contributions while we were training. For doctors, it's incredibly important to get started as soon as possible in retirement investing so that, you don't have to work into your 70s or you have options when you get into your 40s and don't have to work or can devise a better lifestyle, make room for family time, make room for recreational time earlier in your life. And that's hugely important for balance and diminishing burnout in your practice.
And it's also a really good time in between match and starting July 1st to think about disability insurance. Once you match, you can actually get classified by what you're going to be doing, and you have some downtime to go through the process. And similarly, with what we're talking about with adding money to your retirement, you can get your foot in the door with a policy with as little as $100 a month. And this way you're locking in that you're young, that you're healthy, before any of the bad things happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so important to get that disability insurance early in your career again, just because you don't have the diagnoses that are more than likely going to pile up as you age. And being young, it's tough. Training is tough. It's emotionally harrowing. But also remember, look in the big picture, step back a little bit and realize that you're young, and there's plenty of time ahead. Whether it's this year or next year that you match, you're going to do it. You've been working at it. You're smart enough. You're good enough. You've already proven it by going through med school, getting into med school. And now you just have to get that residency spot and continue your career and become the great doctor that you're going to be.
Don't give up. I know people that went through the match process multiple times, and they are wonderful, wonderful physicians. So I think, keep plugging along. Don't give up. And also, as an aside, if you ended up matching and you get somewhere and it's not a great fit, you don't have to stay there.
That's true.
There are positions that open up throughout the year. People decide to switch
residencies.
We had in my intern class, one of our OBGYN residents decided OBGYN really wasn't for her. And she switched into an emergency medicine residency where there was an open spot. And so we were able to then get somebody else who was looking for an OBGYN spot. Things happen all the time.
Yeah. And that's important to realize that even if you get in a spot now and you like it, but you change your mind, nothing's written in stone. Yes, you signed a contract. Yes, you have to start there and work there for a certain amount of days, but then you can transfer. You do have choice. This process itself is quite rigid, but, you will have choice soon again. So don't worry. This is just a blip in the history of your life. And whether it's good or bad, keep perspective, be there for the people around you. And we're here for you. If you need us, you can find me at thefrugalphysician.com, and Financial Freedom with the Frugal Physician podcast. And we're here on all of these social media channels that you're watching us on. And Stephanie, can you tell them where they can find you?
You can find me everywhere.
Yes, you can.
Our website is www.PearsonRavitz.com. It's my last name and my business partner's last name, and it's R-A-V as in Victor, I-T as in Tom, Z as in Zebra. I am on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and they just started me on TikTok. So
Oh boy.
watch out.
I'm excited for that channel. All right, guys. So I know you might be staying off of social media for the next week or so. So don't worry. We won't take offense if you don't reach out to us in the next week. And feel free to log out of your social media until match day, until after match day. Take care of yourself. We'll see you around, and we're here when you need us. Okay? Have a great day.
Have a great day, everybody. Stay well.
Now, a final word from our sponsor. At PearsonRavitz, they understand that life can change in an instant. It's hard to imagine that a sudden illness, injury, or catastrophic event could put you and your family in a devastating financial situation. Physician-founded and physician-focused, PearsonRavitz builds human connections before they create quotes. Visit www.PearsonRavitz.com today and embark on your journey to safeguarding your future.
The content shared on this podcast should not be taken as individualized financial advice. We are here to share our knowledge and experiences, but it is crucial to consult with professionals such as accountants, financial advisors, or attorneys who can provide personalized guidance based on your specific needs.